Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. Good morning. On our Shotsuki service, we read the names of those who have passed on in the month of October. As I read the names, please burn incense in their honor or keep their memory in your hearts. If their names are not on this list, again, if there are loved ones who passed away in the month of October, keep their memory in your hearts. Those people who passed away in the month of October are Kisae Ohara, Reverend Teshi Aoyama, Mary Suenaga, Teroko Hobbs, Kimie Date, Raymond Sako, Robert Susumi Sasaki, Tatsuo Richard Takashima, Yasuku Kuroiwa, Tam Tomotsu Sugioka, Takashi Mayumi, Aiko Muraoka, John Inoue, Frank Doi, Ayako Kaminaka, Emi Himaka Shimizu, Tsuruko Ruiz Osaki, Toyoko Yonekura, Nancy Tsukiko Imai, Minoru Takasugi, Haruno Mayakawa, Chiseko Oya, Tadashi Yano, Aiko Tachiki, Betty Harvey Teague, Tomi Yada, Jimmy Shinohara, Charlie Torio, Helen Haruyo Kawahara, Muto Kawahara, Yasaku Kuroiwa, Ritsuko Abe, Harue Tsuneyoshi, Fujie Ochi, Roy Hosaka, Shimako Hanaoka, Hatsu Shibata, Matsu Kusaka, Katsu Yamaguchi, Mine Imai, Gen Iwasaki, Sam Sugita, Kusuke Hashiguchi, Kotono Katahashi, Ume Tsurudome, Mitsue Sugioka, Fukuyo Matsumoto, Tomoyo Kuwada, Takeshi Monji, Toshino Hamano, Zentaro Asamen, Koichi Fuji, Kanzo Okuni, Tsunichi Sameshima, Kazue Himaka, Oto Shichi Ochi, Tsuneichi Hirata, Katsue Takashima, Nobuzo Kida, Reverend Guze Nishi, Jinkichi Yamasaki, Ito Fukamizu, Sueichi Azuma, Masaichi Yamada, Tatsujijiro Yonekura, Yasaku Nakamura, Itsuemon Tanaka, Ikichi Ito. Again, those are those who have passed away in this month of October. You know, we've been isolated in this condition for about 6 months, over half a year. And we'll probably have to remain in this isolated condition for many more months because of the coming cold or flu season. Now, I've been noting the number of Americans who have died of the COVID-19 disease, which now numbers about 210,000. Now, I emphasize these numbers just to alert us to the seriousness of this disease and to emphasize that death is in close proximity to us in our ordinary lives. And with that thought, we may begin to listen to the Dharma in a different light. Our temples are usually thought of a place of gathering for the family and friends, but it's also a place who hear the Dharma, something that helps us in dealing with the adversities in our lives. More importantly, Shin Buddhism helps us as a guide to resolve the issue of death of a family member or a friend, or even me, and even your death. Last week we spoke of the necessity of including spirituality in our lives so that it really has meaning as we approach death, I will be giving a seminar, the Tri-Temple Seminar, on October 17th, a Saturday, from 11 a.m. to about 1. And it will be a Zoom conference so that people can ask questions afterwards. It will also give me time to really develop the thought of the Nembutsu journey, what the Nembutsu means, and the sacred nature of the Nembutsu, and how we might practice it, and why it's important, and actually what we do in this practice of the Nembutsu. I predict that in 100 years, all of us will be dead. Well, if you're a 2-year-old who can understand what I'm saying, that might not be true. But I think all of us adults will be dead. Now, this Shotsuki service will be for us. Is this a concern for you? And again, the COVID-19 pandemic is close to us. It brings death as a close reality. The President of the United States, the First Lady, several people in Congress, several people in the White House have all contacted the coronavirus. Now, they have the best testing, but unfortunately, it doesn't seem that they have adhered to the protocols that can prevent this. And so I say this so that all of us can be really aware of our surroundings and we protect ourselves. We may not have the same testing availability that they have had, nor might we have the treatments that they have. So it's very important that we heed all the medical advice, keep our distance from each other, wear a mask, and wash our hands frequently. Again, this pandemic is very close to us, and it makes death such a close reality that we're not really used to. One of the main points I've been trying to make is that it is how we think that will determine whether our lives are lived in happiness or in distress. If I'm only thinking about my life in the mundane or the practical, that it will end. It will end when I die. End of story. However, if I think about my life in a more spiritual sense, it can continue. And I think of that because of the 3 treasures which we read often. Let me repeat it here. Rare, difficult, and wondrous is it to be born into human life. Now we live it. Rare, difficult, and wondrous is it to hear the teachings of the Dharma. Now we hear it. Now, let's not just say these words without thinking more deeply into it. We are living this life because of what we call the compassion of Amida Buddha. We can think of the compassion of Amida Buddha in terms of the efforts of others. It's because of the efforts of those people whose names I read that really have made our lives possible. These are parents, grandparents, uncles, and aunties. They suffered from discrimination. Many of them lost everything during World War II when they were put into internment camps. Many people were Issei, like my parents, who gave up everything. They gave up having a very successful personal life. My father was an Issei. He was just starting a new green grocery in a new part of town in 1942. And he lost all that. He had to sell the green grocery truck, everything he had, his house. And we returned to San Jose 5 years later, where he got a job as a clerk in someone else's green grocery. And so many Nisei just had to find work where they could, in menial jobs and blue-collar jobs, even for college graduates. They gave up their own personal successful lives for the lives of others. They worked for our benefit. They worked for the benefit of his children, and that is us. When we complain about being isolated in our homes for months, think about them being in the camps for years, not really knowing when they might be freed and able to return home or to some other place. We are living because of them and their efforts. Again, the 3 treasures says, rare, difficult, and wondrous is it to hear the teachings of the Buddha. Now we hear it. Let's not underestimate the value of the teachings. These teachings were given to us by the compassion of Amida Buddha, or the efforts of others. Again, we hear these teachings because of the efforts of those others, these pioneers, our parents and grandparents. They helped build these buildings, and they supported the temples so that we can hear the teachings now. And these teachings help to guide our lives. And it's just not so that we can be happy, but these teachings help us with a spiritual connection that transcends life and death. Although we are honoring the lives of those who have passed on, these teachings are for us, the living. We are defining the compassion of Amida as the efforts of others. Since their efforts were for us, what is our life about? One thing is to be grateful and to be joyful, because Shinran says that when we experience joy, it is the first step in awakening. They want us to be happy, and so it shows us that we are on the right path. And so it's the joy of waking up and appreciating what we have. So let's carry on this effort to help others wake up and enjoy life. So our practice as Shin Buddhists is to be happy. Isn't that a great practice? We can appreciate all the ordinary things in life and say thank you. If we say that, we are waking up. By appreciating the ordinary things of life, it connects us with the spiritual, and we realize that it comes from the efforts of others, all others, people, plant life, animal life, all these other things. When we voice Namo Amida Butsu, we are saying that we acknowledge the efforts of others, and we see ourselves a part of that. We are a part of Namo Amida Butsu, and the vow that inspired that. We pass that on to others. We realize that it was the efforts of others that supported us, and so we work to bring joy to others. It brings joy to us. It connects us with those of the past and those in the future. Namo Amida Butsu changes from the dread of death to the joy of life. We live on in the lives of others who have passed on this great gift to us, and we work accordingly. And we will live on in the lives of those who follow us after we pass on. We find great joy in these times. We may find it difficult to find joy in these times of COVID-19, the social inequalities, and climate change. Shinran talks about the clouds of anger, greed, and ignorance that cover the sun. But he says that beneath the clouds of mist of anger, greed, and ignorance, it is bright, not dark. So it means that Shin Buddhism is optimistic. In times of any hardship, there are positive things. And it's up to us to find these positive things and expand them, just as our parents have done with us. We heard, as a Sensei, I heard very little negative things about the camps. And so we might realize that these positive things have been passed on to us, and we may do the same with others. We humans have been part of the cause of these difficulties. Now we might be responsible to help resolve them. What are we leaving to our children and grandchildren? A world of division and conflict, or a world of harmony and joy? The Buddha's teachings have helped countries and cultures for over centuries. The Dharma has provided truth. This should be our guide. Would we follow the words of the Buddha, or the words of those whose record is not very good on truth? Buddhism is about both and, being accepted just as we are. It's about the sacred and the spiritual, about interdependence, harmony, and joy. The Buddha's teaching help us to solve our problems. Let us follow this path that leads to the benefit of all and toward harmony and joy. As we accept the benefits from the efforts of others, let's make an effort to live our lives for the benefit of others. And with that, I would ask you to please join me in expressing our deepest expression of gratitude to those who have gone before us. Gassho, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. I'd like to say that there will be a talk by Yukari Williams on our website. She will give a talk in Japanese. Also, Arturo Rubio will be giving talks in Spanish. And so please tell your friends who may speak Japanese and Spanish that they can find these Dharma talks on our website. For the Tri-Temple retreat, you can sign up by calling our office and registering there. There is no charge, but of course, donations are welcome. Thank you.